While President Barack Obama continues his European trip this week, congressional lawmakers are hard at work combing over the details of his $3.6 trillion budget.
Even though slightly different versions of the measure passed in both the House and the Senate, the president's legislation is far from out of the woods. How will all this affect Louisiana? We have Congressman Charlie Malaussa in with more on this. And do you like this budget?
Well, it has, as you might describe it, it's ugly.
And it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, even if they do like a lot of it.
Well, it's for the first time in 8 years, everything is in the budget. We're not hiding the war, the AMT fix, the disaster monies. Everything's been put up front. It's all there in that budget. It's not offline. So if you take what the president's former budgets were, add all the offline items such as the war, AMT, and all that, and you put it back in.
It would have been ugly too.
It would have been real ugly because that's what you're seeing now. But you're seeing all of it on budget, online, so America knows what we're spending. The reduction, actually, if you start looking at, we've got the one-time census money that's in there. That wasn't in there before. We've got the monies for FHA for a lot of the foreclosure stuff that they're going to need. Then we brought the war funding. Then we brought the AMT funding. Then we brought the reimbursements for Medicare and Medicaid to physicians. All these, there's other items there. So you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood offline of $500 billion that is now online.
Yeah. Now the GOP came up with their own budget idea. What is your idea?
Well,
what is your thought about that?
Well, what I saw, they had two. One, first of all, had no numbers. Then they came back with one with numbers, and it actually raised the spending level. The budget is a guideline. Nobody gets revenue out of a budget. Nobody gets to spend out of a budget. It says this is where we're going to try and focus our spending during the year. It doesn't say you've got to be there. Now, one of the things that was going on that I was able to get out, I'm on the budget committee now, was the tax on the oil and gas industry. It was about $30 billion over the next 10 years. And as I explained to the White House and I explained to Chairman Spratt and the members of the committee, you don't need to tax somebody and discourage them from producing energy at a time like this. This is about jobs. This is about keeping the economy going. This is about we need energy and we need to be energy independent.
And there have been many critics who are saying that the president and this administration, as did the last administration, are trying to spend their way out of an economic crisis. A lot of leaders in Europe don't agree with that. Do you think that's the way to do it?
Well, it's not a matter of that's the way to do it. We, as Blue Dogs, had to make some concessions. But what we did get in this budget is the language that's in there, at least for the House side, because we have to abide by rules that we put in. All these offline budget items that are now in the budget that had not been paid for, had been paid for by selling Treasury notes to China and whoever else. But now that it's in the budget, the Blue Dog language says, if you don't have the money to pay for it, we're not going to pay for it. It's not going to go forward. So what the pay-go rules in the House, and then what we've asked the White House, and when the President, hopefully when he gets back from this trip over to Europe, and we go back in the session, we're going to start sitting down and drafting, I am told, with the White House, with the Senate, a pay-go, a statutory pay-go law to put into effect that says to the Senate and to the House, you've got to be fiscally responsible. You need to have the money to pay for the items if you want to spend it. If you're going to do it, and we had pay-go rules back in the 90s. And when the Clinton administration, with a majority in Congress operated by the Republicans, had a surplus projected out over 10 years of $5.5 trillion.
Okay, what do you think about, what is Louisiana going to gain from this budget if it passes the conference committee?
Well, generally, one of the things that's in the budget is by the deficit down by half in the next 45 years. Now, that's going to be a yeoman's task, but that's the president's objectives, and one of the ways of doing it is trying to get health care costs down, whether it's Social Security, whether it's government employees, whether it's the public who goes to get health care work done. There's the economic advisors say if we don't get a health care down, and they're shooting for a goal of about 6% of GDP, if we don't get health care down, we're going to have a $56 trillion deficit in the next 20 years. But if you get it down, you get it down to that 6% of GDP, then we ought to have hundreds of billions of dollars to use elsewhere in the government.
And quickly, yes or no, a lot of people disagree with the Obama administration for tackling so many issues, especially health care right now. Do you think that had to be done, yes or no?
Well, when you have a cumulative effect of things that have been mounting, when I first ran, health care was an issue. we did nothing on health care. In the Congress, the last administration did nothing. All these things have been building. Is it aggressive? Yes, it is. Is it achievable? That's a good question because of the politics. But I don't think we're going to, if we just walk away from it, we don't solve our fiscal concerns as a country, and we definitely don't solve the health care issues that are out there.
Take that as a yes.
Yes.
Congressman, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, back with more after this. Stay right there.